Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ben Rama here, and I'm very excited to be collaborating with Main Loop again on another Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest video. If you haven't seen it already, we did a preview video of the then unreleased Phyrexia All Will Be One Vanguard supports. So the costs were changed, some of the abilities have changed, and more importantly, we have play tested these cards. So I own all but two of them, and the eight that I do own, I have play tested to one degree or another. So I feel confident speaking on most of these, and the couple that I don't own, I'm pretty sure Main Loop does own them. So he'll be able to give some feedback on those ones. And yeah, this is a really great set of Vanguards. This is actually the first uh, Vanguard rotation uh, since I've gotten back into the game. So I've become more familiar with how Vanguards work in general. And honestly, I've just been having a lot of fun with them. So yeah, let's just get right into it. All right, so we're going to start with the rares and work our way up the list to the mythics. But the first card we're going to look at is one that I think got the kind of the raw deal in how some of these cards have changed since the preview. I think it got done dirty, for lack of a better term. Uh, 17 cost white Vanguard with 5 shields, which is too bad. The +1 ability exile target creature. Then, if that card is a non-token creature, return the last creature from that controller's exile into play, basically. So previously, it was not relegated to non-token. So that changes it quite a bit. What you could have done previously with the wording on the preview version is you could have exiled a big creature from your hand and used that on, let's say, like an Ajani cat token, and you could have cheated out like a big, like a Phyrexian Vindicator or something like that. But as it is, this is essentially a flicker Vanguard. It allows you to just return a creature immediately back into play. So if you have any sort of enter battlefield effects, I went up against a deck in Training Grounds one day that had this in a Savior of Ollenbach exile build, and it was quite effective. And yeah, I can see some potential with that ability still, but I just think the increased cost to 17, which, given that they were all undercosted to begin with in the previews, that's understandable. But I think 17 is still a bit much. Um, but yeah, anyway, moving on to the zero cost, create a samurai token that gains double strike. That's not too bad. A little 2/2 double striker. Um, yeah, I mean, it doesn't cost any shield to do so, but I don't think it's going to be the reason people will be running this card. But the last ability, -4, destroy all creatures except for the first each player controls, destroy all creature reinforcements. That's a decent board wipe. Pretty conditional. I've never felt the need to use it. Um, Generally, you want to be on top of things to the degree that you don't want to have to pull the trigger on something like that. But I guess if you were building around that, you could potentially do something pretty cool with it. But yeah, I mean, again, I think the interest in this card comes from its first ability, but in the end, this one ends up being a little bit underwhelming. Um, you could actually use this first ability also to just straight up exile your opponent's token creatures with no repercussions. So I mean that's actually pretty cool. So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, I'd like to know what you think about the Eternal Wanderer Vanguard in the comments if you have any thoughts on this Vanguard.
Yeah, I got this card pretty late myself, chasing Koth Vanguard. It was the second to last card that I got when I was trying to pull him out of the 120 jewel packs. So I haven't really used it very much, but I think you've pretty much said everything that I would have said about it. The only thing I've used the little samurai token to hit the objective of summoning a creature with double strike in the DMU revolving planeswalk. I want to say it's the red node, but yeah, that's just one way to use that card. And then if you throw Savior of Orlenbach in like a Kalemne deck, so you can uh, use that to your advantage there. That's one way. So yeah, I think this card is best paired with Savior of Olenbach, and I don't know if there's any other reason to use this card really. Maybe with Atraxa and things like that. Anything with an enter the board effect could help with this card, but a little bit too expensive to use in most decks. I end up using against all odds a lot more often because just the other utility that this card has just doesn't really justify that high of a casting cost. So that's my thoughts on it.
Moving on to a card that I think is probably one of the most chase cards of this set, if not for the fact that the 120 rare pulls that are needed to get these cards are they're not non-dupe. So you can pull dupes, and there are threads on the discords that I frequent where people have running tallies of how many duplicates they get, trying to get pulling 10 Kayas to eventually get a Tyvar. But yeah, this is a really good card. I think I initially kind of undervalued it in that I just saw it as you play creatures and they gain haste, which is good, but definitely not as good as this card is, in that it does not require you to play the cards from your hand, cast them, etc. It's come into play. So all the graveyard shenanigans you want, apply, flicker effects. I have a really cool Atraxa, the mythic one, deck that utilizes against all odds to flicker enter battlefield effect creatures, and yeah, when they come back into play, they have haste, so they don't lose their ability to attack that turn. That's a really cool mechanic. Of course, graveyard shenanigans. Yeah, this is a really great card. 3 shields, only 10 mana to get it out. So black and green, really powerful ability just right off the bat. The +1 is kind of a miss for me. The random evergreen doesn't appeal to me at all. I mean, I do use it to boost the shield count if I'm not using this in a proliferate deck, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of whatever. The -2 ability on this is actually pretty interesting. Initially, I kind of undervalued how many decent creatures there are at 8 and under, and yeah, Tainted Adversary is one of them, and also Rocco at 7 cost. For me, he was coming in with full stored mana, which is 20, so I was able to fetch basically whatever I wanted. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, -2, destroy top 2 cards of your library, and then return the last creature with mana value 8 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield under your control. Of course, they will have haste, and anything you fetch with Rocco, for example, will also have haste. But yeah, this is a really, really good card. I know a lot of people have spent incredible amount of pink resources trying to get this one. I pulled this, I think, my second card. I pulled an Eternal Wanderer, this one, and then like 6 Eternal Wanderers in a row. So I gave up on the 120 packs pretty much after that. So yeah, that is Tyvar Jubilant Brawler. Definitely one of the, it's definitely one of the better cards in the set. I'm not going to say it's the best of the rares because I actually do not have Koth, and I know that is the other chase card at the moment. And yeah, I have also spent considerable resources trying to get that one. But yeah,
Yeah, well said. I would say that this card is worth the chase for the most part. I probably wouldn't spend more than like 10 pools trying to chase after it if I were you still trying to go for it, but it's not on the level of like a Teferi or Tamio Vanguard, but it's a really strong ability. And the only thing I'll say about the second loyalty thing that it does is if you use that +1 on like a Traxa, you're most likely to hit something that it already has, so nothing, no effect usually happens. But since it's the only way to get it a +1 shield, that's why I end up using it. And then I almost never use the third ability that it has. It's mostly just to give your green and black creatures haste. I mean, let's be real about it. So that's why I use that card. I don't. I almost never mess with the other stuff that it has unless I'm trying to up its shield count. So yeah, there you have it.
Kaya Intangible Slayer, 14 cost, white black. Vanguard, yeah, it has the strange hexproof thing. I think that is for crystallize, like somebody mentioned in the Discord chat. Uh, because most, if not all, of the Vanguard removal spells are not non-targeted. So yeah, we'll have to see about that. Um, +1, opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life. That's pretty straightforward. Decent for boosting the shield count, but I mean, it's a 6 point spread. It's all right. Uh, I love the zero cost draw 2 cards. If you're using this with Iker Moon Gauntlet and you trigger the loyalty ability, which enables the uh, extra swaps, yeah, it's really cool to be able to get extra swaps and then draw cards and play them the same turn. So yeah, I really like the zero cost draw 2 cards. That's a straight up boss ability. And lastly, for -3, this is the kind of equivalent to her Planeswalker third ability, in that it exiles a creature, creates a spirit token, and then gives said spirit token any of the evergreens of the creature that was exiled. So it's yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's -3, so right off the bat you have one pull of that. Um, I haven't used that ability too much in play. I got this one most recently. This is my most recent pull. Uh, again, trying to get Koth, but yeah, that's being able to exile. Now it is opposing creature. You can't exile one of your own, but anyway, that's Kaya Intangible Slayer. Not super powerful, but I I don't know, maybe one of the weakest of the rares, but in any case, there are far worse cards in this list that we will get to.
Yeah, so like you said, it's nothing special. What I like about it is it gives you like three different really separate abilities in one card. You get the card draw and you get the exile. I wish that the +1 did a little more for you, but um, as it is, it's fine. It helps you, I guess, gain some life back or whatever. But yeah, I mostly use this card for the card draw and the emergency exile if I need to. But yeah, not a card that I use much. It's just not really a combo card for me. Like if you're playing just like a straight up like control or just like a deck where you're not, looping or something to win, it's a pretty solid addition, especially for players that don't have a lot of options. for removal or card draw in white. So that's where I would recommend people use it. But overall, not the best, but like you said, not the worst at all either.
And yes, the aforementioned Koth Fire of Resistance is next. He's a red 13 cost Vanguard support with 4 shields. So his uh, ability of if the support has 7 or more shield when a red gem is destroyed, deal 3 damage to your opponent's planeswalker. So there was a little bit of discussion as to whether or not the game would count the stack of 3 as one instantiation of 3 damage, or each gem counting as 3 damage. So that would be 9. So the answer is it's 9. It's 3 damage per gem. So yeah, once you get this to 7 shields, this card becomes an absolute atom bomb. There's some really cool videos on some of the other YouTubers' channels with yeah, footage of this guy going off pretty hard. Yeah, that's an absolute boss ability. Um, I'm still trying to get him. I don't know if I ever will, but we will try. The +2, convert 2 gems to red. Yeah, I mean, that certainly helps get you to 7 shields. And yeah, 2 red conversion in a mono red build. That's going to be pretty decent. And -6, deal X damage to target creature. X is the number of red gems on the board. I don't know how many people are running this card for that ability. I think it's pretty limited in that it's target creature. Um, I mean, I guess the evergreen ability is to your opponent's planeswalker already, but it would be nice to be able to target Greg with that. But yeah, this is an awesome card. I really hope I get it. But I'm sure Main Loop will be able to tell you a little bit more about it because I'm pretty sure he has it.
Yes, I do have it, and I have to say this card is a beast. What's most surprising about it to me actually is how easy it is to get it to 7 shields or more. Just takes 2+2s on it. So in 2 turns, you're doing damage with those red gem matches. But yeah, that +2 is actually pretty useful. Just being able to convert 2 extra gems to red per turn is pretty nice. And if you're using mono red, that definitely helps get things going. So yeah, this is a card that makes mono red a lot more viable to me. Like you said, I never use the -6. I think it's a waste of shields. Just keep pumping up the shields and you just convert as much red as you can and just watch the mayhem happen. This card is so good it's made its way into my mono red legacy decks as an extra win con. Um, it just helps get things going. And if you're playing that dinosaur that converts like 10 gems to your planeswalker's color, that's what I've been using it for. In fact, I have a video of how I'm using that on my channel here. It's the video that I just posted before this one. So, yeah, take a look at that and chase after this. I gotta say that this is probably my second favorite Vanguard of this set right now.
All right, so the last of the rares is Kaito Dancing Shadow, and it is the second of the cards that I do not own. Um, I would still kind of like to get him. I know a lot of people have said this one is fairly forgettable, um, but he is an 11 cost blue black Vanguard with 3 shields, and the +1 ability, target creature gains can't attack and can't block until the beginning of your next turn. That's a decent little lockdown. I've heard that that works well, pretty well in even coalition events. So, that's a nice ability. I like that. Boosting up the shield and locking down an opponent's creature. For 0, draw a card. that's not quite as good as the zero cost draw two cards that the Kaya Vanguard has, but nonetheless, it's zero cost draw a card, so I'm not going to balk at that. And lastly, the I think the most important thing about, or most interesting rather, thing of this card is the drone token creation. These are neat little dudes, um, or dudettes. I'm not going to genderize the drones. Um, they're colorless 2/2 artifact drones. They're artifacts, so I think that's important to note, given the block we're in. It has Death Touch and Berserker, so that's pretty cool. It's yeah, it's a little death dealer. So when it deals combat damage, your opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 1 life for each damage it was dealt. So I've had big creatures uh, basically get run into by this guy and have taken insane amounts of damage. Um, and vice versa. Like I've played a few games with the Kaito Vanguard, or rather the Kaito Planeswalker, and have used the drone token uh, critters to great effect. But yeah, that's a really powerful ability. The losing 2 life and gaining 2 life for each 1 damage it was dealt. And on top of that, when the creature is destroyed or exiled, your opponent loses X life, and you gain X life equal to the creature's power. So, if you are running this with the Planeswalker and you got a big old stack of them, or you're, buffing them up with Proliferate or something like that, yeah, it's just more damage dealt, more life gain. The drone tokens are a big win with me. So, yeah, this is a cool Vanguard, but again, maybe one of the more passable ones in the set overall.
Yeah, this is a fun card because it basically adds Kaito the Planeswalker to any other Planeswalker that you can put it in. And one of my favorites has been to add him or this Vanguard to like Kasmina or Nicole Bolas the Ravager because of that drone token. And you can really buff up this drone with either Kasmina's abilities, or you can sack this drone with Nicole Bolas the Ravager. Really, any card that can target this creature, the drone, and give it damage will send twice that amount of damage to your opponent. So that's really cool. The ability to do that in other planeswalkers besides Kaito, which I do like that planeswalker. I just don't use him that much. Uh, and to be honest, I haven't really used this Kaito Vanguard that much since I got him. But he's another one like Kaya that he does a lot of different things for you. Like Ben already said, I really like the +1 ability that he has. It really helps with certain battles. So yeah, another just utility card, kind of mid-grade Vanguard for this set, but I think I like it better than Kaya overall.
All right, so moving on to the Mythics. The first one we have here is Vraska Betrayal Sting, 13 cost, black, Vanguard. I really like this one. I run it all the time. It's super useful in a few ways. The first ability, zero cost, you draw a card and lose 3 life. Proliferate, escalate. So when you proliferate, you increase Vanguard shield count, so it does effectively act as a +1. It's just that's how they do it. So, but yeah, that's a really good ability just for getting an extra card. Boosting all of your Vanguard shield. Your oil counters. It's a really powerful ability, and I use it all the time. The -3 destroy target creature. I use this all the time as well. It's not destroy target opposing creature or anything like that. It's straight up just destroy target creature. So in coalition events, I'll use this to nuke my own guys if I'm winning too fast before I can hit my objectives. So that's really useful. Plus, I would get a gold token out of it for my troubles. But yeah, that's a really good ability. Um, I should have mentioned, I think, that it comes with 4 shields right off the bat. But the -4, so you get one pull of this if you want. Target creature you control gains menace, gains toxic 5. Uh, that's really, really powerful if you put that on a double striker. I have used that ability in that capacity before, and you win very fast. So yeah, if you really just want to use this as a spell to, if you get like a 5 swap and then you can use that same turn, you can give your creature, basically make it unblockable and give it toxic 5, which is 2 toxic better than the masterpiece glistening oil. So yeah, Vraska, Betrayal, Sting, really, really good Vanguard. Again, I use it all the time in every match type. So super fun, super good.
Okay, I'll admit I don't use this card a lot, and I really should. It's a good utility card, and it's a better utility card than either Kaito or Kaya. I guess the only reason I don't use it that much is because it's a black Vanguards, and I don't. I'm at the moment not using a lot of black Planeswalkers. I'm just stuck on blue and green and red right now. So maybe when I get back into battles or battle types, I'll use this card more. But like you said, there's a ton of utility in this card. I actually don't use the -4 very often. Um, I just like all the other abilities that this card has more. So reducing it by 4 shields for something that I'm probably not going to use a lot anyway as a win con is just not a good use of shields for me. But yeah, being able to target, destroy any creature, and that nice little proliferate escalate is pretty awesome actually. It's a fun way to raise this card's shield and get a lot out of it. So yeah, I mostly use this card actually for that 0 ability. So yeah, there you go.
Uh, we're just going to go straight up to perhaps my least favorite of the entire set. Yeah, there's no perhaps about it. This is easily my least favorite. Nahiri, the Unforgiving. The lower 11 cost on this doesn't really excuse it. Doesn't quite forgive it. Excuse the pun. White and red. Comes with 5 shields. The +1 target creature loses can attack and gains Berserker until the beginning of your next turn. That doesn't really do it for me. +1, discard a card, then draw a card. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could discard an equipment and then the next turn use this where you create a copy of it from your graveyard and then it gains full mana. I have run this card in a enter battlefield effect deck with Blade of Shared Souls because that is an equipment. So you can dump a bunch of those into your graveyard using Dacons first or whatever, and then yeah, and then you can basically create a copy of it and then duplicate an effect. But I mean, it's a lot of setup for. I mean, it's basically just one per turn, so it's not great in a looper, but it's very passable. This one, if you have found a really cool and powerful use for Nahiri the Unforgiving, please let us know in the comments. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of this one.
Yeah, this is one that I fortunately avoided, never had to pull it, never want to pull it, will never try. I hope it just goes away. I will never use it. I have nothing to say about it other than it looks like it sucks. And from what Ben says, it sounds like it does suck. So, moving on.
Moving on to one that I actually really like quite a bit. I haven't used it as much as I would like, but whenever I have, it really goes off with a pop. But Nissa Ascended Animist. It's a 23 cost green Vanguard with 6 shields. So it is 23 cost, but typically in green, you're never really shy of mana, especially if you're running like PMA conversion and things like that. But um, I'll usually just toss this in um, with a Brocan build where I can use cut your losses if I don't have a whole lot of really good green conversion in standard right now. Personally, I haven't started attacking the green PMA packs yet, so but it's not that hard to get this one out. There's a few ways you can do that, but um, yeah, if you have like green mocks or something, um, no problem there. But yeah, +1, create a Phyrexian Beast token. It gets +X+X, and that's equal to the support shield. So your Phyrexian Beast token's a 3/3. That's sometimes a little confusing. I think I've seen it come out as a 10/10 because if you add the one shield to 6, it's 7, and this guy's a 3/3, which makes it 10/10. But I've also seen it happen as a 9/9. Yeah, let us know what your experience with this one has been in the comments. But that's a really, really, really powerful ability. Like I just spam that. Honestly, this is what I run this card for. Creating like a 9/9, or I mean, if you're using Ikermoon Gauntlet or Inexorable Tide proliferate shenanigans, I mean, you can easily get the shield into double digits, and yeah, it doesn't take long before each turn you're pumping out like a 15, 16 power beastie with you know it's berserker and toxic, so you're smashing into their creatures, you're giving your opponent toxic tokens. um just insanely powerful. I absolutely love that ability. -2, destroy an opposing artifact or enchantment support. I haven't used this quite as much as I would like to, um, but let's keep in mind that Inexorable Tide is an enchantment, and Ikermoon Gauntlet's an artifact. And considering how powerful those two cards are in the meta right now, I don't think we should be overlooking this -2 ability. But yeah, I really, really like that one for when it is applicable. And -9, your creatures get +X+X and gain trample till the end of turn. X's number is the number of green gems on the board. So again, if you're running really heavy green conversion, that's going to be an absolute nuke for you. But it is -9, so you do have to boost it a little bit before you get to pull the trigger on that one. But I think most people will be running this for the +1, create a massive Phyrexian beastie.
You're totally right. I do the same thing with it. I just spam that first ability for the most part. Try and get the shields up. And then if I need to, I'll use the -2, destroy an artifact or enchantment support. Uh, like you said, that hasn't been the main utility for it, although it's a nice little bonus. But yeah, I just mostly use this for the beast token. Like you said, it gets crazy huge very fast. Even without having a proliferate deck, it still goes off. But one thing I did notice, I think it's a bug, that if you use this ability and replace a creature with the Phyrexian Beast, it won't get the buff. It'll just be a 3/3 token. I don't know why it does that, but I hope Octagon fixes that soon. I should probably send in a ticket to let them know about that. But yeah, very good ability. I actually don't really use the -9 very often unless I really need that trample. I found that actually spamming the Phyrexian Beast token over and over again actually makes more damage happen than the -9. It's just there are a lot of times where I just don't have a lot of green gems on the board and I use this. Depending on how many creatures I have, it's just kind of a win more. It doesn't really do a lot for me in practice, but other than that, this is a really good card. The only thing is, it's even with all the green gem conversion and stuff, it's still a pretty pricey card to cast just from your hand. So I recommend pairing it with Mox Emerald or something like that if you're going to use this card, because a lot of times it's still kind of a prohibitive cost even with green.
All right. So Lukka, Bound to Ruin, is a 14 cost red green Vanguard support with 5 shields. +1, the first red or green creature in your hand gains 6 mana. Uh, you do obviously require a creature in your hand that is red or green for this to work. So, yeah, if you have no other way of boosting that shield, then you are out of luck there. But if you're playing a very creature heavy deck, and there are combos to obviously allow you to always have a creature in your hand, but yeah, in all, it's one of those conditional ones where I found too many times I, in fact, don't have a creature, and I really do want to buff up that shield count. But in any case, moving on to the -1 ability, create a Phyrexian Beast token. There's no buff on this one, so it's not as good as the Nissa, but it does create a Phyrexian Beast of the exact same type, which are the 3/3 Berserker Toxic green beasties. So I really like the Phyrexian Beast tokens. It's this is probably the one I've used the most, the ability I've used the most with this card. But yeah, um, the -6 deal X damage to any opposing target, where X is the total power of creatures you control. I've used that a couple times as a win con, um, but that's usually in games where I was really on my way to winning anyway. So it was more of a win more at that point. But in any case, that can obviously be swinging for big damage if you're playing PVE against an opponent with a really high HP um, count to begin with. That could be good. But yeah, I mean, um, it's a it's a way to deal a lot of damage. But again, if you're um, set up on the board with a whole whack of creatures, you're usually on your way to dealing a ton of damage anyways. But yeah, it's not the worst ability, but I think this is a kind of average the Vanguard, just having played it enough to not be entirely impressed with it. But if you have a different opinion, please let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I have to agree that this ended up being a pretty average Vanguard. I would say that this, for me, has been the biggest letdown of the Vanguards because I had such high hopes for it. And just in practice or just in play, it didn't really live up to what I had thought that it could do. For one, that first ability, the first red or green creature in your hand gains 6 mana, is cool, but you have to have creatures in your hand to make that work, and it's the only way to get it +1 if you're not proliferating and escalating. So that significantly weakens the utility of this card. And then just creating a Phyrexian Beast token with a -1. Just think of how much better Nissa Beast token is. Not only does it raise the shield counter of your Vanguard, but it gives a nice big buff to it, and this does neither. So it's very limited in its utility in that way. And then the third ability, which is what I thought would be the most useful, it's like what Ben said, you already have to have a lot of power on the battlefield for this to be useful. So it takes at least one shield growth to even be able to trigger it. You can only get that +1 in certain situations, not always. Thing I like about Vanguards is when their +1 has, or their plus anything has utility that you can use anytime you want. And this Lukka Vanguard just doesn't have that really. And like you said, it's kind of a win more. The only time I could see it be really useful is if your creatures ended up disabled with Hixis and you just got this giant stack of creatures on the battlefield that you otherwise couldn't do much with it. But yeah, that's a very niche situation that you're probably not going to end up being in very often. So yeah, just a little bit of a sad card to me. I really tried hard to make this card work, but just never was able to do much with it. So it just kind of sits on the shelf for me now. I don't know if I even mastered it yet, but probably not.
And lastly, the card that had me the most excited when we first saw the previews, and is also the card that did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. If anything, this one uh, over delivers. Jace the Perfected Mind, 13 cost blue Vanguard support with 4 shields. +1, target creature gets -4, -0 until the beginning of your next turn. You do require a legal target for that. So unless you're running Ickermoon Gauntlet or Inexorable Tide, and chances are if you're running this card in a blue affinity deck, you're running one of those other cards as well. So I I really don't see this as much of an issue, I think, as with like the Lukka support, for example. But yeah, in any case, the second ability, -1, destroy top 3 cards of target player's library, so you can target yourself. Then mill 20, draw 3 cards. Uh, I think I kind of undervalued that ability at first. The mill 20 is incredibly easy to get. That's literally just one cut your losses where you cut your losses. So, 10 mil with the first cast, and then 10 mil with the copy of that spell. So you can get to that very easily. And being able to draw 3 cards for only -1 shield is a very powerful ability. If you're running Ickermoon Gauntlet where you get extra swaps and you have like Surveil, you can basically scry for the cards you want, draw them, play them that same turn. I do that all the time with this card. It's just a great ability. And the reason why most people are going to want to be getting this card is the -3, destroy the top X cards of target player's library, so you can't target yourself again. Then your opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in that player's graveyard. X is equal to 3 times the support shield. So basically, the way this works in order, it will destroy 3 times. It'll destroy cards equal to 3 times the support shield. So right off the bat, that's 3 times 4. So 12 card destruction plus whatever number of cards are already in that graveyard. So that can add up pretty quickly if you're running cut your losses. Like that's 20 cards right there if you play a copy of the spell. If you're running Decimator Web or a Xander build or something like that, just ways to increase the number of cards in your opponent's graveyard. This can be an absolute nuclear bomb. And not to mention if you're using Ickermoon Gauntlet or Inexorable Tide to boost the actual shield count on the Vanguard on top of that, yeah, we're talking triple digit damage easily with this ability. It's my go-to win con card right now for any coalition event that allows me to run blue affinity. I just set up my uh, objective. I just basically hit my objectives and then pull the trigger on this guy. So, yeah, Jace the Perfected Mind is an absolutely amazing card. He's really fun to use. I like using him for the self-targeting with graveyard shenanigans. So, um, yeah, you can target yourself and dump a whole bunch of stuff into your graveyard for recursion. But yeah, this is probably the best card of the lot. If you don't have Jace the Perfected Mind already, I would be spending my pinks trying to get him for sure.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. This card, I know Ben was really hyped on it in the previews, and it definitely delivers. Pretty much every part of this card has utility. I mean, obviously, the first one has the least amount of utility. Target creature gets -4 until the beginning of your next turn. I really mostly just use it to get the shield count up. But that -1 is pretty good. I usually start by making that one go up. And I almost never use this card without having the gauntlet in my deck on the board as well. It really helps to get that shield count up. But yeah, destroy the top 3 cards of your target player's library, then mill 20, draw 3 cards. For me, it takes a little bit of time to get to mill 20, but yeah, you can totally just use cut your losses and get that mill going. So that's a pretty good -1. And yeah, I like to use this -1 to fuel all sorts of different things, but I also use a -3 for the same thing. So let's get into that. Yeah, like Ben said, it's a really good win con. It's been my favorite win con for a bit now. One of my favorite ways to also use it is to fuel Ren and 6 Vanguard. Just target myself, get tons of stuff into my graveyard, and trigger my Ren and 6 that way. I've been also using Brilliant Mycosynth, or that's the name of the combo. Using Encroaching Mycosynth and Brilliant Restoration and throwing a bunch of stuff into my graveyard with this card as well. So much fun things you can do with it. To me, it's my favorite Vanguard of this set as well. And it's just going to help a lot with some new cards that we're getting in the next set as well. So definitely one to chase. Spend some pinks getting this one. At least you'll eventually get it no matter what if you spend enough jewels chasing it. So you'll get some pretty solid Vanguards in the process as well.
All right, so thanks again to Main Loop for inviting me to do this video. These collaborations are super fun for me, and I had a blast doing this one. We did actually have a video planned with another YouTuber as well. It was going to be a three-way collab about the cards that will be missed when standard rotation happens in September. However, literally the next day after we had all of our stuff recorded, Wizards of the Coast announced that the standard rotation schedule would in fact be changing, and that has been subsequently confirmed by Octagon that the Puzzle Quest version will be following suit. So basically that content was deemed irrelevant for the time being, so we'll circle back to that topic when it is in fact relevant. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we hope to catch you again in the next one.
Yeah, thanks again for doing this, Ben. I know you're having a busy life right now, so any sort of collaboration like this is much appreciated. And thanks to everybody who watched this. I know it might not be the most popular video we do for this channel, but we always like to talk about this game and create content for it. So yeah, thanks for checking it out, and I will see you guys in the next video, which will probably be a preview video of March of Machines, which the spoilers just came out today. So I will try and get a video review of those spoilers out as soon as I can. Alright, till next time.